Hello, hello. All right, let's get settled here. We're on the floor. So we're making it work. We are making it work. Let's get our peeps on Instagram on. There's a little doodad here. And let's pull my notes up. Welcome, welcome, clutter free family, to the Clarity Line. We are, hold on, we're not connected. Okay. Hopefully, we're all good with our Wi Fi and all good with our batteries. Do we have enough juice in these devices to not be, because they're not fully charged? We'll see. Okay. Welcome, welcome to the Clarity Hotline. Hold on, let me get myself in frame here on both. I got to adjust frame on both devices. And then we'll be good. I think so. Okay. Hello, welcome. Let me pull my notes so we're somewhat on task. Unlike last week when it was a cluster. But we made it work. Last week it was just a lot going on. And yeah, we're back. I'm back, obviously, at my mom's here. And this is the backdrop here. It's kind of identifiable where I am, right, on any given Thursday. And we'll see how that progresses, where I am on any given Thursday. We've got a lot to talk about. I will say that I put a lot of questions that had come through because I was like, can I get through all of these? Because they're just so good. I just feel like we might have to wait. We might have to wait on some of these for next week. I might push some off for next week just to make sure we're giving each thought its moment, because I think there is a lot of restructuring of our thoughts, right? A re-engineering of our mindset around some of these things. And it takes time. And I think it really does take conversation around it with somebody who's, got a different perspective than you. And because it might open you up to have more thoughts about it. Okay, hold on. We've got some technical difficulties over on Instagram. I don't know what that means. Anybody familiar with more than one ingestion is using the primary URL? I don't know, but I think we're still live. I still have my live notification at the top, but I don't know what this means. We're just going to go with it. We're still live on Instagram, but I am a little bit concerned about the Wi-Fi situation. We'll see. We will see. We're just going to go with it. We'll see what we got. Anyway, like I was saying, we've got a lot of questions, and it helps to get some different perspectives, which is something I want to bring up today in particular about, and I'll use somebody's journey who's in the limelight right now as an example. Okay, so we're going to talk about one particular celebrity in her space, in her respective space. She's a celebrity. And so we're going to talk a little bit about her journey because she's getting a lot of shade for a book she just put out. And I had to go down the rabbit hole a little bit on that because I was curious. And so we'll get into that. We'll touch on that. And I also have been getting a lot of ADHD questions, a lot of uncoupling questions. And let's see, what else? I think and a lot of money questions. So I have a couple notes on some money questions, and I think it was around some of the comments I made in previous videos that they were kind of following up on some of my money conversations. And and as it pertains to around manifestation, manifesting money, right? Millions of dollars in your life and really manifesting a life of your dreams. So I talk a lot about that. And there were some questions about that. I don't know how much we're going to get into, but I do want to start with this particular celebrity, this conversation around this particular celebrity first. Um, because I just kind of want to address the elephant in the room on it. I think it's kind of all pervasive considering she's going through a book launch. So, it's timely. But man, I've got so I kind of did a little bit of dabbling, I don't know, jotting notes down on some of the questions that came through. And I'm just looking through some of my questions because or some of my notes because I know I can weave in some of the answers to some of the questions that came through in how we address the topic at hand around this particular celebrity. So let's ground down. Breathe in. There's actually a lot that we can tie into her story. A lot that we normally talk about on this channel. So it's not at all, you know, uncommon that we would go down these rabbit holes together on this channel. Hold on one second, guys. This is starting to bug me because I'm wondering if YouTube is on with me. YouTube, are you there? I'm getting kind of like a little bit worried about this error not going away. Not to mention, I don't see the microphone moving. Okay. Big breath in and out. Big breath in and out. We're doing this to calm ourselves, to be in the moment, to come present into the room, into the space where you are. And as much as you can, when you attend to the breath, you start to notice that the external noise and the things outside of you are quieter. So just, be open to that. Because there's a lot of thoughts buzzing around my brain right now. I'm sure a lot of thoughts buzzing around yours, all the things you have to do. The week's not wrapped up. So it's not like, you're done and you could take your foot off the gas. It still feels like, okay, got to get through Friday. So we're breathing. We're coming into the present moment together, and we're open for clarity. We're open for the answers to our questions, however they come and wherever they come from. So let's just get started on one particular question. So Emma Grede is the celebrity I'm talking about. I've talked about her before on my on the hotline about her podcast and some things that she had kind of been talking about and different things that I kind of admire about her and things that were controversial around kind of her start in 2025. And she's British, so she's come to the US, but she's getting a lot of American popularity. She lives in America now, and she has a popular podcast called Aspire. And she just hit it out of the gate really strong on the podcast. I think she knew she lined up whatever she needed to do as far as sponsors go and producers and investment capital, and she hit it out of the park. So she knew what she was doing, and it's not because she's winging it. It's very much plotted and planned. You could tell her start in the podcast world. And it's because, she did the work in the background and she did the work behind the scenes. And before we ever heard of her, she was, doing the work and working on herself and being very true to what she wanted in her life. And she got asked a question as she's launching her book called Start With Yourself. I'm sure it's already out, but she launched her book, Start With Yourself. And she's getting a lot of flack from women who are probably just hearing sound bites of what she's saying because, shorts, they'll slice and dice everything. And I understand my snippets too will one day be out there and it might seem like I'm saying something other than what I'm saying because you lack the context. And I recognize that and whatever, it is what it is. And I'm sure she also recognized that and it's whatever, it is what it is. It's not stopping her from pursuing her purpose and her passion in life. Going after her ultimate vision for this lifetime. And I will say this, I still think she is a smart woman. She did a great job at manifesting this career of bringing it all together. She's a mom of 4, so a mompreneur, and, married to, an investor slash, strong businessman in his own right. So they've got, like, a nice little situation. And she says she's in love with her family and she's very happy. So she's manifested her dream life, right? So we're hearing from her in the position of somebody who's manifested their dream life and is currently living it. So I want to just kind of throw that out there that that's what we're hearing, right? And and so with that, she's writing this book and she's giving a lot of advice to women along the way, along all her journey that she's been through. She's kind of been through the rough upbringing, the single mom life, where she didn't have her dad around. He's fun and everything, but he just wasn't around in the way that she really probably could have used him around. He wasn't really present. And then she dropped out of high school. She actually got kicked out, apparently, for disrupting, just being a disruption to her class. She was asked to leave her high school. Coming to find out later as an adult, she has dyslexia. And it's hard for her to keep up with meetings and probably back then with teachers who didn't know how to serve her, right? And to teach her with this disability, this learning disability. And now dyslexia in the United States, or at least in California, as far as I know, California wide, dyslexia is a mandatory test. It's an assessment that all kids do as early as kindergarten. They're taking the test to see if they're dyslexic. And so that will help them, right, get the right services and the right aid and the right resources to help that student if they are in fact dyslexic, so that they're not kicked out of school for being disruptive. To hear that is just like so sad. It breaks my heart as a mother of a young kid who is disruptive in class. I see immediately that you've got to attend to students in a different way. It still a little ruffles my feathers around how we're barely kind of coming to terms with, okay, how we do need to treat all students differently. Every single student, even the one daydreaming in the back and not disrupting class, we need to address, how to best serve her and give her the information that she needs. And present information in a variety of ways. And it's not always going to come from the teacher of that classroom, of that grade level. It's not always going to come from that person. And I recognize that, one, because I know I've had some really boring teachers along the way, really boring. And in those classes with the really boring teachers, I struggled. I especially struggled with those boring teachers in math, to the point where I think at some point along the way with that really boring teacher teaching me math, I checked out. Like, math wasn't my subject. And I don't know when and where and how that it started to become my psyche around math, that I just wasn't good at math. And then, what is it, chicken or the egg? I started to tune out in math, or it was just so boring, or it was just so I had just the thoughts of, like, I won't be able to get this. And so therefore the concepts, the math concepts were so convoluted and complicated that my brain just wouldn't accept it. They in fact refused a lot of it, to the point where, yeah, I was struggling in math to get an A, a B. A C was like, oh yes, I made it. I passed. Yay, I don't have to do this again. Anyway, so she got asked to leave her high school. She didn't graduate high school, and she didn't even graduate college. She, couldn't afford to stay in the fashion college that she was enrolled in. And so some trials and tribulations to get through, right? And then also she was kind of like co-parent to her single mom, of her younger siblings. So she really did step up to the plate as far as like being there as co-nurturer of these kids in where there were deficits, right? And that probably will happen for, maybe any single parent household. You'll probably have a kid somehow step up, into fill in the gaps, fill in the holes. And, they shouldn't be doing that, right? They should be this kid, not the parent. But I recognize that, um, inevitably personalities might come to fill the holes, and it might start to look that way depending on how you are single parenting, right? How you are filling in the gaps yourself. If you're proactive in filling in the gaps with other resources, other people, um, the right particular person in this particular role for your child, then chances are they can still stay kid, they can still stay the child in the household instead of stepping up. But there's not gonna be, every single household has the resources and the finances and the means to accommodate that level of, availability to that child so that they can stay the child until they one day become the adult, in the relationship. So let's look at that. So Emma Greed was asked quite a few questions actually about her book launch, Start With Herself. And then we'll get back to some of the shade that's being thrown her way because of colorism and privilege that they think that she has because she was raised by a white British mom. So is there some privilege there? But she says, no, it was really a rough neighborhood we grew up in. No, no financial success or wealth to be had. Like it really was a struggle, right? So when people when people talk about anybody's reality and upbringing and things like that, you really do want to, I guess, give some space for what you don't know, right? What we don't know fully about their story and their life and what they went through. Because I have a lot of, theories on her path. We all start in different ways, we and as long as, and this is something she says too, as long as you stay ambitious toward your goals, you will get there. She says that in so many words, and I think that's a big thing about her book, and why I put it on my Libby app to get from the library. So I'll read her book for sure, because I just want to hear more of what she's saying. She talks a lot about it on her podcast, I'm sure, but it's kind of all this accumulated knowledge that she's wanting to share. I think especially with the younger generation coming up and saying, start with yourself, know what you want, and then go after it, right? It's probably going to look like a lot of hustle, which is what she definitely did, in her early days and probably still does, managing a lot. She's juggling 4 kids. She's got a booming career, successful marriage. And so she's balancing a lot, right? Granted, she's got people in place. So she's got her nannies. She's got her team under her at work. She's got a supportive partner. Apparently, I understand from her that Swedish husband. Swedes are very sensitive to this matriarchy, right? So it's not necessarily that the man is going to work and leaving the woman to do it all herself. There's this understanding that the man is the partner for the woman and she's not supposed to do it all alone. So they give a nice substantial father, paid father leave, not just or paternity leave, and not just a paid maternity leave. So in Sweden, you're getting both the maternity leave and the paternity leave, and they're pretty substantial. I think the maternity leave is probably like a year. And then who knows what the paternity leave is. However, you know, there was that support that she had from her husband who came up in this way, right? Not abandoning her, not making her do it all herself. He really, what I heard her say is he really stepped up to the plate as far as no questions asked, getting the bottles, doing the diapers, being there for her, giving her a break, I'm sure. Because, if you want a break and you want to go work out or check out or tune out and do your thing as the husband, the father, then she should have that too. She should have that too. And I think a lot of times, us as women, we don't know how to ask for that. Imagine a partner who already has it ingrained in his psychology that he is going to be there for his wife and mother of his kids, and doesn't really need to be taught anything around how to support her in this motherhood journey, especially postpartum, right? There's cultures that we know, like in Taiwan, I know in particular, there's the month, I don't know what it's called, but it's like the golden hour or the golden period. Anyway, it's a month. It's not the gold, it's golden something. It's not the golden hour. We have that here. It's just an hour of the baby on the chest of the mother after birth immediately, not with all the tests over here and there like they used to in the past. We know that skin to skin contact is the most important thing for that baby to know, to bond, to imprint, and know that it's safe, right? And to start its own self regulation journey, being out of the womb. So that's our golden hour. But then there's a month where the mother is in tons of cultures. I just threw out Taiwan because I know in particular a friend of mine had that. But I also know, and I've read books on other cultures who have this month of the mother doesn't have to lift a finger except tend to that baby. So meals are made for her, like healthy meals that repair her from within, like broths, soups, things like that, vegetables and slow cooked meals, right? So it's this idea of like slowly ramping up through postpartum to motherhood, right? The fast paced life of juggling it all. And so anyway, there's these cultures that have the month off for the parent as far as just having resources, not just a month off of work, but like a month off of cleaning, cooking, doing all those things that really take you away from baby and really take you away from your own healing. I think that's the next iteration of kind of our society in understanding that the mother is just really not being attended to here in the Western society, in America in particular. We're not attending to the mother very well. We're not giving her enough respite. We're not giving her enough benefit of the doubt to come back to her career, things like that. Not to say that a lot of women want to go back to their career after having kids. I think a lot of times, especially me in particular, I'm seeing that with young kids, especially under 5 years old, but especially under 7, they need you. They just really need you. And I think there is that natural tendency for a mom to want to be there in the ways that she knows they need you there. And that doesn't always look like you leaving for hours, 9 to 5. And so I think the work at home culture is benefiting the mother that wants to be there for her kids. The work from home culture is, I think, has a place. Emma Grede says that it doesn't have a place, but I think she's very in her element, and she's coming from that place. One of the things that she said is that there is the work from home culture is doing women a disservice in the corporate world because they're not there to have the resources or have the conversations or be in eyesight or earshot of the conversations, to be in the rooms in proximity with the people that are making the decisions and see that you're there every single day, morning and night, putting in the work, delivering on the goods that you said you're going to do, right? Delivering on your word, following through. Um, you're not there, right, to show up in that way when you work from home. However, there is a time when work from home could really benefit that mother. Imagine she has 5 to 7 years with new baby, new kid, having that work from home time and not losing any momentum in her career. And then she gets back to work when, kid is in school and things are thriving for them. She's back in that corporate lifestyle that she worked so hard to get to. And then she's back in the rooms, right? So I think there's some perspective to kind of be had with what Emma Grede is saying. She says, um, to the the work from home culture is definitely ruining women, she's saying, and our forward momentum, our trajectory. I think there's just a bias there. I think there's a bias toward the being there for your kids and the time frame within that you want to do that. And then when the kids are a little bit more self-sufficient, doing their thing, maybe not struggling in school, and so they are in school and they're thriving and everything's all good. And there's the support after school at home with a strong, solid foundation, strong, solid parenting, strong, solid, mother and father figure, guardian figure there that knows how to be there for them in those hours that are 5 to 9, right? Or 2 to 9, after they're off school. It's like they're getting the support, the tutoring, the mentoring, the connecting, the bonding, the time with their family that is also just as important as learning how to count and numbers. That is going to help them self-regulate and learn about themselves and come into their own self-confidence and self-esteem when they've got both, right? So we don't want to neglect either thing, but if the career of the mother figure in those first 7, 8 years is compromised, then they're not getting what they need. And so if they're going off to school and then the mother's still not there because she's working late, then they're not getting what they need. And so this is I think where it starts to become a problem. So if you can have the work from home culture, then you want it, right? And then you'll go back into the office when kids are sustained and they've got long after school stuff that they're doing, they're thriving at and they're loving it. Then you're both home at 5 for dinner. You're sitting at the dinner table. You're having a great time as a family. You're bonding, connecting. And if there's homework or projects, I don't know how I feel about all that right now, but as they get older, homework projects, things like that they're working on, are you investing some time as the parent that is and saying that this is just as important to me as it is to you, right? I want to know what you're working on and I want to see the final product and I want to hear how it went. And, just showing that in engaged interest into what they're doing is important. And then also, right, you want to know that they're interested in what you're doing. It's not just a one-way street. It's not just, oh, show mommy that you're doing what you want to do and, you're going about your career and you got it all together and look at mommy juggling all this and I'm doing it well and I'm maintaining my composure and I'm maintaining confidence in myself and I'm going after my dreams. Look, you can do it too. It starts with you showing that you're interested in them too. And then they will also see that they're interested in you, right? It's kind of like you got to model that behavior of being interested in what they're doing too, for them to really even know what you are doing and to be interested in what you're doing. I also want to say this, that Emma Grede has 2 older kids. So she's got a 10 and a 12-year-old, and then she's got 2 4-year-old twins at the time of this recording and the book coming out. And she's coming from that place. So she's coming from a place where she kind of did her time with her kids. So she said, I think she had her first kid at 31, her second kid at 34, and or I don't know the math. Anyway, this is what the numbers that come to my mind. Anyway, they're 10 and 12, so you could do the math. And now being over 40, she had some struggles. So she did IVF. She went that journey at 38 years old, struggled to get pregnant. And then opted in for surrogacy, which she says is very expensive. Not every family can do that, but she has her family of four, her kids, her family of four, five, six, six. And, just loving, right? Her situation. Having more kids probably is better, right? I would love to have more kids. But is it financially responsible, doable? Is my bandwidth there? At some point it's not, right? Until it is. And then are you past the biological clock that you can have more kids? And so she's saying, don't wait on your career. Don't wait until your career is perfect before you start having babies. And I don't know what grade or what age she was when she got married. But it sounds like it's been a long marriage. He's been there and they've had the kids together and they're doing their thing. And so, that's all working out. Uh, there's so much that we can unpack with this that I'm trying to fit into this time. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so she's saying, so some of what she's saying is that she's no longer ambitious, and this is verbatim. I did want to write this verbatim. She's no longer ambitious on behalf of her kids. And I feel like that's a dangerous thing to say because one, she's been ambitious for her kids when they were younger, I'm sure, right? And because she talks about how there are times in your life. Let's get to the question in a second that she was asked that we're going to answer today, that we're slowly answering right now. She's no longer ambitious on behalf of her kids, but I'm certain she was at some point when she had and birthed those babies, those two of her oldest. She birthed those babies. Now she's got nannies to help support her with the younger ones, and so she probably feels like she's capable of being there and being present in the slots, in the time slots, and the parts of their lives that she feels are very important. For her to say she's not ambitious on behalf of her kids, I think she's trying to say that, you don't have to maybe uproot your whole life to support them and get them through. Uh, I just think that it's probably feels different for her with surrogate kids, and that's no judgment. I'm just saying I wonder if there's a little bit of that, where there's not the actual, holding of the baby in her belly. I don't know. But while she still has these 4-year-old babies, twins, to say that she's no longer ambitious on behalf of her kids, I don't know what that means. I think that she's got enough support around her that she doesn't have to be so in the thick of it like you are newly postpartum. And you really are newly postpartum ambitious about attending to your kids. I talk a lot about it where I was